Alright, so we have a new episode of Smiling Friends, and it's called Alan episode. And the plot of the episode is pretty much this. Alan is assigned with finding more paper clips for the office. Alright, let's get into the good parts of this episode and some of the things I just found interesting. The first part was Alan is doing his daily routine. And out of everyone in the show so far, I'd say Alan's probably the one that gets the least attention. But we just get to see him do some mundane things for like a couple of seconds. Like waking up, brushing his teeth. But once he leaves his apartment, he actually ends up running into his landlord, who seems like he just wants to hang out with him and play video games with him, which I don't know how many people are that close with their landlord, but apparently he's really trying to make some real connections with his, like, I guess, payers or whatever. And then we cut to the boss pretty much just telling them about this, like, secret plan that we actually don't get to hear, and that's actually the joke of the episode, is that, like, right when we cut to them, they're talking about the end of the plan, but we don't actually hear the specific parts about it. And obviously Charlie and Pim, again, actually this seems to be a theme this season, but they seem to be agreeing more on stuff. And whatever this like mission or plan that they have to do, they end up agreeing on that as well. And Alan actually gets a secret job as well once he shows up, and he has to get a bunch of paper clips. For the boss man, of course. Alan's first place to go get paper clips, I'm forgetting what the store is, but pretty much he actually asks one of the store members to help him, but they're kind of busy. And we've all been there at one point when we're trying to help a customer, but we're also occupied. And by the way, this is why Smiling Friends is just constantly a great show for me, because the dialogue in this scene was very accurate, aside from them like cursing at each other and saying bad things to each other. Although that can happen as well. And I'm not going to take anyone's side here. Obviously, Alan wasn't exactly the best person in this situation, but the worker who was already occupied was obviously has like some type of anger management issues or whatever, and he was not having it. And when this argument is happening, a manager or supervisor walks in, and I'm not even joking, he literally tells him that he needs to like stay calm and do his job, otherwise he's gonna go back in the asylum. But then Alan asks the question of where he could get paper clips because they're not in the store that he's currently in. And the manager or supervisor tells him that it's in Crimeville. And then after this interaction, the manager pretty much tells him that he's gonna send him back to the asylum. I know I said that before, but that was wrong. And after the manager or supervisor leaves, the items that the guy was stacking before actually drops on him. But then being the petty person that Alan is, he actually ends up laughing at him and then leaves. So then we end up going to this Crimeville store where there's this really old guy that apparently can't give Alan his paper clips because, you know, he needs them for his other uses. And apparently he's like keeping the store like powered up or whatever with his nose, which is really dumb. And Alan points out that he could actually use the paper clips to help, keep the store up and running. And then once he figures out that Alan is right, he actually lets him get paper clips for free. And Alan's pretty happy. But as soon as Alan leaves the store, someone who, one of my favorite characters from Smiling Friends ends up returning out of nowhere. And it is DJ Split. And I'm not even joking. The final 4 or 5 minutes of this episode literally turns into like a John Wick, Mission Impossible, like James Bond type of mission. And kind of like a mini action movie. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say here. And it gets insane. He somehow gets a hold of a helicopter. And pigeons literally get sliced open real quick. And it seems like the US Army somehow just gets a hold of this situation, and now there's flying jets after them. And once the helicopter crashes, and I'm pretty sure DJ Split dies, Alan ends up going into this cave where he sees Bigfoot, or actually before he gets into the cave, he sees Bigfoot. And before I say this next part, I'm pretty sure my TV just started shutting down out of nowhere, so I don't know what Bigfoot and Alan said to each other. But Bigfoot ends up getting killed very quickly after this interaction, and there seems to be this secret pirate dude out of nowhere who ends up beheading Bigfoot, which is no easy feat. And he ends up getting the paper clips, of course, and he ends up going on some massive ship or whatever. And Alan ends up finding the nearest boat, and a big chase scene ensues again. But Alan's boat ends up getting blown up, and a big creature just comes out of nowhere and consumes the ship. And Alan obviously goes after him inside the monster. And the skeleton actually ends up getting stabbed, which I thought was pretty funny because you would think skeletons wouldn't feel pain or anything like that. And I believe Alan was the one to do it to him. And Alan actually ends up getting shot out of the creature, and obviously he has his paper clips with him. And when Alan finally gets the chance to open up this paperclip box, he actually ends up seeing his own address, which would creep out pretty much anyone if they saw that. So he ends up going back to his house, and it turns out that the landlord guy actually set this up the entire time. And it's not because he wants to kill Alan, or it's not because he wants to end the world or something, not anything crazy. He just wants to hang out with the guy and play video games with him. Which is honestly very sad, because isn't there a whole bunch of people in this apartment? I don't know why he's so fixated with Alan. But obviously if Alan doesn't hang out with them, he's gonna blow up the entire apartment. So I guess I was partially wrong. And Alan actually goes back and recalls in his mind, obviously, what the paperclip guy with the nose guy, whatever his name was, actually gave him advice on. And I don't remember the exact speech, but pretty much you can use a paperclip for any situation. And he does that because he ends up shutting off the bomb that was attached to the guy's chest. And the landlord is so disgusted with himself that he actually ends up killing himself because of how ashamed he is. And we cut back to Charlie and Pim talking about the adventure that they went on that we didn't get to see or know about in terms of what the mission was actually supposed to be. And the boss man, because of what Alan went through, he actually ends up giving him an award, which was simply just a little version of himself. And obviously Alan does not care because he just went through all of this just for that. So he ends up giving it to Charlie. But the boss man definitely does not seem happy about that. Also, the landlord guy somehow survived it, so we're probably going to be seeing more of him in the future eventually, kind of like a DJ Split situation. So overall, I guess I was kind of lying when I said this episode review was not going to be as long as the last week one. But yeah, I know it's only 3 episodes in, but this is definitely my favorite episode, and I cannot wait to see what they do next week.